That's yours, Dick. The big legal side. So I'm gonna refer to an exhibit and say.
Right here. Here you are. Well, yeah,
This was all done on part.
this is, no one, does anyone need another one? I think I gave enough to everyone. It says on here, HB 6th Street recognizes the 13th. We're fine. Oh, you did not get it? I'm sorry. All right. I have extra ones. I know, and there's something else. Here we are.
Whenever you're ready,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee members. I am Stella Tremblay. I am from Auburn. I represent Rockingham 4th. And this bill was given to me by at least 4 or 5 constituents that got together. So, and I'm going to give the clerk some extra copies later on, if you'd like. I just ran out of ink and paper for everyone. Okay. There is an amendment on here, but we'll speak to the bill first because what I had given was not exactly what I wanted, and that's why there was an amendment. So, however, we'll start off. I've got these all Dun & Bradstreet. I could not take a picture for everyone. I ran out of ink, but that's one of the books. And Mr. Gardner had to leave for an appointment, but basically he was just going to give us a little bit of a history and where the controversy was. I bring this forward because today, because of Google, because of the internet, there's a lot of books coming out that show that the original 13th Amendment, which was the Titles of Nobility Amendment, was ratified. And so we'll start with one. The first one is, this is the books with missing original 13th Amendment. And I couldn't do a copy of everyone, but it's for your information. You can go in, it's number 1 with a circle. It's in that folder. I put it all in order. So number 1. So what I did was go through and take one document and give you a little bit of information. Yeah.
You have an index to the
Yeah, books of the original missing amendment. It's a 1. So I chose number 2. This book is in the State Law Library. There's a letter later on in here. It's number, you don't have to look to it, but you'll have it. It's an email from Mary Searles. She could not give me a certified copy, but it does exist in our library. And then later on, Margaret W.M. Wood, from Senior Legal Research Specialist in the Library of Congress, sent me an email. She said there's actually 2 other copies of this. This is United States Laws from 1789 to 1815. It's also in the Keene Library and I believe Plymouth. But basically, if you go to page, this is number 2, if you go to, this is, I'm sorry.
Just, if we can step back for a second.
Yeah.
You're introducing the bill because, and then we can go to the references. We'll go to references and, some of the members may be listening to this bill.
I am introducing the bill because we believe that the 13th Amendment was ratified, the Titles of Nobility, and due to various circumstances, it was changed. So now I am going to present documentation. Some of these have come from Google, and you'll see where I wrote it in, because Google has trying to keep our documentation, and they're making it available online. So this one, the number 2, I'm sorry. If I'm not clear, I have a tendency to have a loud voice. Oh, not all the time. But number 2 is on Google, but if you go, it is on page number 2, you go to, yeah. 13th Amendment is on page 5. So if you go to 5, it'll tell you. Article 13th. Page 5, actually.
Well, then they're different.
Page 6.
13. It looks kind of, oh, see, it's 11, 12, 13. Okay. On the third, you're right, page 6. If Article 13, if any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, receive, or retain any title of nobility or honor, and that includes us, honorable, whatever, honorable or honor, or shall, without the consent of Congress, accept and retain any present, pension, office, or emolument of any kind whatsoever from any emperor, which would be a foreign entity, king, prince, or foreign power, such person shall cease to be a citizen of the United States and shall be incapable of holding any office of trust or profit under them or either of them. So I'm not going to keep reading, but that is the consistent. So number 2 shows the documentation. Then, this number 3 was the letter from Mary Searles. She could not certify it, but this is what is in our state law library. It's the same book, and so, and then I've got one from Margaret Wood, and number 4. She is a senior legal research specialist in Washington, D.C., and she sent, and this is the email, she sent me a few books. Okay, now she believed, there's also controversy on that. She sent me articles of a gentleman that said that no, there's no controversy, never passed. So that's up there also. Now number 5, this comes from the American Memory, this is what Margaret Wood sent me. They're actually taking documents that are available online. And you'll see, let me slow down here, 5. There's 2 pages. It's 477, 478, and 479, which comes from the U.S. Congressional Documents and Debate. And it shows that it was passed in the House. Somehow the documentation for going to the Senate was not, we don't have any record of it at this time. However, we know that the procedure was in those days, it wasn't like us now that it goes to the people and we vote on it. Congress would pass it at the federal level, then it would go to the House, and then from the House, from the Senate, it would go out to the various states at that time. And then if it was ratified in New Hampshire, for example, in both the House and the Senate, then they would send it back to Washington. And it needed 2/3 of the states to concur for it to pass. But I'll go on. And that, I think I put the page, the amendment was on page, the amendment is in there that it passed and it was sent out. Now number 6 is 1816. This is a guide to sheriffs, coroners, clerks, constables. It's listed on page 3. You don't have to, I'm not going to reread it, but it's the same thing. It's listed, Amendment 13 was the Titles of Nobility Act. Number 7. This came out in, you'll notice, 1825, which is almost 7, 8 years. 1825 was when, let's see, 1821, 1820, Maine had been admitted to the Union, Alabama in 1819, 1818. So I didn't have a chance to give a copy to everyone, but I gave it to the clerk. These are the dates of admission. But at the time this went out, there was only 15 states, at least 15 states that actually got this proposal sent out to them. Once you became, once it was ratified and the states, other states entered the Union, it was null because it had already passed. You see what I'm saying? But anyways, this is in 1825 that this was printed, and this is United States military laws. The 13th Amendment, the TONA, which is the third, the titles of nobility, was in here as the 13th. If you go to number 8, this is the rights of an American citizen, 1832. It was published. Constitutional policy. This also has the 13th Amendment as the titles of nobility. And you'll see that on, this is number 8, that will be on page 4. I'm just going to run through this because I want to show that's consistent. What I had done, this list was so extensive, I would have had a stack like this. So I just kind of went through and picked something from the top, the second, and right to the end. That's what I did. So I just gave you samples to let you know that all these documents prove that their 13th Amendment was ratified and passed. Okay, then number 9 was our wonderful state of Vermont. They passed it almost unanimously, almost like the NDAA in this committee a short time ago. It's on page 6. If you want me, I hope I got the pages right this time. Page 6, once again, it says, the amendment to the Constitution, if any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, receive, or retain any title, and etc. So there's consistency right there again. Number 10, I took document number 11. I went to the state archives. I've got, this is certified, you can take a look at it. I just took a copy of it. It's a certified copy of the House Journal stating that, and you can write the old English, the written, but I tried to translate it in English. But if any citizen of the United States shall, number 10, I just pretty well just kind of translate it to you in printing, what it says. But it says, any citizen, therefore resolved by the state and House of Representatives in general court convened, that they passed this and sent it back to Washington. Okay. The table of official publications. This is number 11. There is a group of researchers, it's called TONA, the third, okay, they went through and it shows the date that it was ratified, the amendment page or whatever, but you can see that there was a majority, more than 2/3, 3/4 of the states passed it. TONA on the 13th, this is just a document explaining critical clue to the missing 13th Amendment. Right now I'm just presenting, the 13th also gives you an information on the date it was ratified. There's been a lot of research, and only in the last couple of years that they've come up with other documentations that have been authenticated, telling us that the 13th Amendment, as originally presented, was ratified. And in conclusion, I just want you to keep an open mind here. We know that Sandy Berger, when he went into the archives, he was charged for taking documents out in his wherever it was, and his socks, and it was destroyed. We don't know what documents they were, and how many people have gone in and done the same thing. Because it is Black History Month, and I apologize, I tried to get a copy for every member here just to look at openly what could happen in history. I bring to you number 15, which is Frederick Douglass. Now, Frederick Douglass has and because it's Black History Month, I thought I would like to acknowledge the wonderful contribution that our brothers and sisters in the past have given. Now, Frederick Douglass, he did believe that the Constitution was a pro-slavery bill, and he fought most of his life against it. However, he met with a couple of gentlemen, and he reversed his position. If you look in the middle of the page, he reversed his earlier agreement with William Lloyd Garrison, who actually had taken the Constitution and ripped it apart and burned it. Garrison had publicly expressed his opinion by burning copies of the document, further contributing to their growing separation. It turns out that once Douglass understood and he was taught the true meaning of the 3/5 person and how the Founding Fathers did everything in their power to get rid of slavery, he did a paper in 1846. It was called The Unconstitutionality of Slavery in 1846. But this is not well documented, and a lot of people don't even realize that he's still looked at someone who did not believe in the Constitution. But the reason I bring this up, he also served 4 terms in 4 different capacities in the in the congressional federal level. But when Woodrow Wilson, because he was a sympathizer and he believed in the Aryan race, he believed that Hitler was correct in the races, where our founding fathers believed that all men were created equal. He pretty well took, because of what he believed in, he went through all the educational material and wiped out anything that he could about the true history, about how the slaves were a really good integral part. I don't know if any of you have heard of Prince Whipple.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's not taught in school extensively. Or James Armistead. They were not segregated from our Founding Fathers' Revolutionary War. They were side by side in getting freedom. So I want to keep that to let you understand that sometimes history will be changed due to whatever reasons. The 13th Amendment, some people believe that the Founding Fathers were so scared that the French Legion were going to come in and perhaps take over the country. But we see today, also the 13th Amendment, how we have foreign powers giving our senators and those running in our government from China and from other foreign powers, you know, to influence our senators. And the 13th Amendment was put in there to stop this type of thing. I believe our Founding Fathers were very, not revolutionary, but I believe they were very close, because they prayed so highly. They were very close to the Spirit, and I believe they received revelation on what could have happened in the future. And so I bring this to mind. We would like to reinstate the 13th Amendment in our New Hampshire Constitution, or at least publish that it was ratified, and that is my purpose. I am open to any question.
Okay, two things here.
Yes.
Number 11, you were charged for certified copies.
Yes.
by the Secretary of State.
Well, because I pay for things. That's just my personal,
Oh, okay. So
I wanted you to know that this was not made up. I paid for it.
Yeah.
I went and got it. I've got the original here, like I said, with the seal on it. This is just for your information.
As long as you realize that you didn't have to pay for it, so.
I know, even when I go to the state library, they said, you're a rep, you don't have to pay. And I said, well, the state needs all the help they can get.
Yeah, well, no, I mean.
So I
really
just
appreciate
kinda
it.
pay.
I've done that too, because it's minimal, but, I mean, the members here need to realize that you can get information as a rep, and the fee is waived, okay? I mean, within reason, I mean, you can ask for, 2,000 copies, as long as you're sensible about it. I do have a question on
Yes.
the bill itself. On the first page, lines 22 to 28, it states that the act, starting at 22, the act is also intended to end the infiltration of the Bar Association and the judicial branch into the executive and legislative branches of the government. Where does that figure in based on the amendment?
Well,
I don't see it anywhere.
I'll tell you, the person that asked me to bring this forward wanted to show us that the Bar Association is actually the British Accredited Registry. That's what it stands for. It's a foreign entity that came into the United States. If we want to keep separation of, we always bring this up, separation of departments. Yet we have someone who takes an oath to the Bar Association, who are in the executive, who are on the judiciary, and who are in our legislative, in both state, Senate and state. So sometimes there might be a conflict of interest. If there was just regular attorneys that were not members of the Bar Association, that would be one thing. But I'm just bringing this forward. This is what was given me. They can be construed as a foreign entity. And emolument is actually, you probably have a better idea than I do. Emolument is when you profit, maybe bringing in laws that benefit your, like if you're not getting a lot of business, all of a sudden you make new laws that will bring in more people to courts. And I've talked to at least 7 or 8 lawyers that have left New Hampshire because they were not part of the Bar Association, and they are treated less than, it's frowned on.
Representative Christensen.
Yes, I had a comment to make on the Bar Association because I had researched that in the past.
Could you speak louder?
I had researched it in the past.
Yeah.
The New Hampshire Bar, first of all, the original charter was made of a public corporation in the late 1800s. I got a copy, but I forget the year, but I didn't bring it with me. And Chief Justice Brock with the Unified Bar, they went over to the corporate division of the Secretary of State, and they're registered as a non-profit in the private corporation, okay? And right now, okay? They've even got a listing in Dun and Bradstreet.
Well, yeah, I have a list of the Dun and Bradstreet numbers
Okay,
for all, not only New Hampshire, for all.
Part of the government, okay? They originally were, when the 1800 charter, it was a charter like a charter school, a town charter, city charter. It was a product of this legislature, okay? The Unified Bar, they put that aside and come up with the private corporation, which they are right now, okay? And in the original bar charter, it could be opened up by the legislature or by the courts if they wanted to make changes. And it was real specific in what it should have been. And that's why we have got the, we'll say, the treatment of the private bar in the legal system, why lawyers have to leave and so on. If you hire a lawyer from out of state, he has to hire a New Hampshire lawyer to get into the court. Is that court part of our government or not? No. They're actually operating without their charter. Okay, I said no. But that's our problem with New Hampshire courts.
Okay, in summary, I really just wanted to say that my focus was to give you documentation to show that the titles of nobility were still published, even as far as 1825 and beyond. If this was a controversy, which I think Mr. Gardner was going to explain, that we did ratify it in New Hampshire. It went out. However, there was a controversy because did Carolina ratify or not? I have other people who are going to speak to the other issues, but basically.
Okay, also, I have one more question before I open up again. On line 26, it seems like a very strong statement. You say, as long as the original 13th Amendment is concealed from the people, there shall never be justice or legitimate constitutional form of government. Isn't that a little bit strong language to use here? Do you actually believe that?
Some people believe that the Constitution, because of other things that happened, I just wanted to bring up documentation on my part to show that there is a possibility that things are changed depending on who's in government, and that things could be stolen and things can be changed. That's all I was trying to bring. Other people who brought this forward will be speaking more specifically on that. I am not sure on that. Like Representative Christensen has paperwork, and I am not, I'm not completely, versed. I just brought in documentation. Are there any other questions?
Okay, I will, Representative Carey, followed by Representative Massimillo.
What is your hope or your belief of the impact of this bill that you propose?
This is not really a bill. I think it just tells us we just want to acknowledge that this was ratified and that the original 13th Amendment was the titles of nobility. I think the ramifications of that is that people, for example, getting, when you campaign money from foreign entities like Iran or China, they should not be giving money to our senators or our congressmen because there might be undue influence. Somebody doesn't give you money just because they want to give you money because they like it. So,
Okay,
does that answer?
Thank you. Well, just for members of this committee, this is a bill. We're actually asking, us, the
Yes.
House, to put in Article 13. So
Correct.
it is a bill, so it's not a motion. And also, and I overlooked the fact that Representative Christensen, you are a co-sponsor.
Yeah.
So please refrain from asking any questions. You can, when it's executive session, you're free to do whatever you want, okay? And Representative Baltasaro also acknowledges that, so that's why he's not present, so I respect that.
So that was
Okay,
a plus.
Okay, Representative, Representative Carey, is there a follow-up?
No, I just wanted to be clear on the intent because it seems there were several different issues addressed throughout the bill, so I wanted to make sure what the focus was and what needed filled.
Yeah, I believe, you look at any history book, you're going to get all kinds of opinions. They even don't know to this day why they introduced it. I'm just summarizing that even though the French Legion came and helped them during the Revolutionary War, they were still fighting with England, and who knew if England, you don't give up a whole territory the size of the United States of America and just say, okay, you run it. They were afraid that there was going to be a backdoor way of coming in and taking the country. So they wanted to make a distinction there.
Okay. All right, Representative Massimillo, followed by Representative Nodder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking the question. In Article 13, it says that if any citizen of the United States shall accept, receive, without the consent of Congress or retain, and it goes on about pensions, they shall cease to be a citizen of the United States. So if someone moves here from England becomes a citizen and then receives a pension for a group or union that they were in England, they are no longer a citizen of the United States?
I don't believe at the time that they were brought forward that was a problem. I think they were more like a noble that came over and lived here. He probably had to go to Congress and say, look, I take an oath to the Constitution. I want to be, you know, as long as Congress knew about it. And that was one of the controversies. Some of the states wanted it out, that little piece. Some wanted it in. But yeah, today, if it's applied today, as long as, I mean, I think the United States would be very happy to know if somebody was getting a pension from another country and wasn't collecting income tax on it. That would be probably appropriate, would you? Because it is income, even though it's from another country. So that's a question I leave for you. Is that
Well,
possible?
If I may, it says if any citizen, regardless of whether or not they have a title, it says shall, without the consent of Congress, accept the retaining, pension as represented that's another that, that they're not entitled to that. They're not citizens of the United States. And cannot hold on to it. So if the 13th Amendment passes, it will affect a lot of people from foreign lands who have decided to become citizens. And I have, relatives who are Canadian who have changed their citizenship to the United States. Oh, thank you. And so is my parents. And, get a pension or some type of income from Canada. So they would be non-citizens and would be able to hold on to it. If this bill passed, amendment passed, that's the way it is. And I may be wrong, but I believe that, I understand where Representative Massimilia's coming from. Representative Karen.
Just a quick follow-up along the same lines for American citizens who have investments, stocks.
In other countries, yes.
Right, and they are part of our pensions because we have, mutual funds or we have IRAs or 401ks or, a lot of times we don't even know exactly what composite our funds are. Would that then mean that none of us are entitled to our pensions and we all become non-citizens?
I have to, I understand, thank you for the question. I think what you have to look at is this was put forth in the 1700s. That was their concern. If it was to be brought forth, they would probably have to make stipulations on there. But I would think that, for example, I was made in Italy. I went to Canada, and I became a citizen at least about 20 years ago. But we can still collect a pension. Now I don't have to, declare it here. So there might be some good, some good things come out of it.
I mean, I understand, the intent, just to acknowledge that the 13th Amendment exists.
Correct.
I'd say when it was first, ratified, I understand that situations are entirely different and times have changed. So it would be nice to acknowledge that it did exist, but not to enforce it is probably the best way to go about it. Representative Nodder? Okay, and then Representative Reigne.
I guess my question is, the idea of what a pension was in the 1700s is not what a pension is these days.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, just to clarify that something, I don't think their idea of a pension is the same as what we consider a pension today. And I think the thrust of the 13th, of this amendment, was to keep foreign money out of people that were sitting in power in Washington.
Correct. I think that, and may I make,
All right. Yes.
I make the comment that a lot of our senators and congressmen would probably be out of office now if we knew where they were getting funding. And they're there as we are. We're here to serve our constituents. If we get special interests and others influencing us, that is not a good thing. We just want honesty in our government. At all levels.
That may be a good thing, too.
Any other
Other questions for Representative Tremblay? Yes.
No, comment.
Well, we can't.
You can't comment.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
But you can testify.
Christensen, you can't,
Believe
you
that.
can't, you can't comment.
You
You
can't
can't
comment.
comment.
You want to testify, Mark?
Question, do you
No,
realize?
you can't.
You can.
In here?
The best way to handle this, Lars, is if you go and just make a comment, then it's fine. But, you know, if
The
you.
question is all right.
No.
Well,
If you're a sponsor,
All
co-sponsor, I
right,
don't
okay.
know.
I think if you go and testify, then, well, no, I mean, you should be able to answer a question. Sorry. All right, that being said, yes.
Could he not come and speak on the issue? Representative
Yeah, he
Christensen?
can speak on the issue.
Yeah.
No, he can't.
No, he can't.
Yeah, because he's a co-sponsor. He
Oh,
can
he
sit here.
can.
Yeah, he's got to sit here and, from what, on my other committees
Yeah,
anyways.
you can as a co-sponsor testify, yes, but you can't ask questions of anybody
Oh, okay.
testifying, okay? All right, any other questions? Representative. All right, seeing that,
No, you go.
Right here.
Representative Massabella.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what you're looking for is for us to acknowledge that this was ratified.
Correct.
That it actually existed, which is kind of interesting, I think, historically. All right, seeing no more questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Tremblay. Next, I'll ask Representative Corrigan
Okay.
to testify, and he opposes the bill.
Yes, we have written testimonies that pass around.
Give me a second. This is his amendment.
Now, Representative Tremblay, you're going to take care of the... Representative Tremblay, you're going to take care of the books for us, right?
I have,
Is he gonna be coming back?
Yeah, you can secure them again.
these are to give you, anybody would like it?
We need one for the,
Yeah.
we need one
I
for
give one to your
the,
brother. You should-
but we need one for the
you need one for
clerk.
the clerk.
Yeah,
And I have two other copies, when anybody would like one.
I'd love it.
Yeah. And
$5.
you can get it on Amazon, on used, very interesting.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sometimes it's $7 or $8.
No.
Yeah, he's had it for a
I've already
while.
checked, there's no money in the pocket.
Did you speak? No, he
All right,
you were on
thank you. No, she. All right, good evening, everyone. All right, Representative Morgan is here to testify in opposition to the bill. Welcome, representatives.
Okay, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Representative Timothy Horrigan. I represent Stratford County District 6. I just want to thank the sponsors who gave me a copy of the folder and stuff. It is indeed true that a number of states did ratify, this amendment was passed by Congress and ratified by a number of states. Also, I might point out, this isn't about replacing the current 13th Amendment, which restored the institution of slavery. I know some states, similar bills have come up and members have been accused of trying to bring back slavery. So I think they basically feel this should be Amendment 13 and then Amendments 14 through, we think of Amendments 14 to 27 should be Amendments 15 to 28. The original 13th Amendment would in fact be the 28th Amendment if it were to be ratified. In my opinion, it has not yet been ratified. It is true that a number of law books were published in the 19th century which showed the proposed titles of amendment as Amendment 13. In fact, there's a gentleman sitting behind me, Gus Breton, who has a website where he's gone and found many other, taken photographs of many other law books from the 19th century. But there's also, I believe those books are simply erroneous, and there's many other 19th century law books, and I apologize I didn't go to trouble of like going to the state library and digging up some of those, but there are numerous 19th century law books to understand which show the United Constitution with only 12 amendments. These amendments, as I said, is Representative Tremblay pointed out, passed April 27, 1810, made from the Senate on May 1st. The enabling resolution did not specify an end date for the ratification process, which means that's why it's still theoretically out there waiting to be passed. The 27th Amendment was another that was introduced back in this era, I think even earlier than this, and that 200 years later ended up being being ratified. So that theoretically could happen here. So Article 1, Section 9, you've already heard about. No title, nobility shall be granted by the United States. No person holding any office, profit, or trust under them shall, without the consent of the Congress, except for any present emolument, office, or title of any kind, whatever, for any king, prince, or foreign state. And, there are actually many citizens over here who have accepted, for example, honorary knighthood from foreign states, so usually Congress approves it. I think even President Reagan became an honorary knight in the United Kingdom. And so this amendment would have replaced that provision, much harder one. If any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, or receive, or retain any item of nobility or honor, or shall, without the consent of Congress, accept, retain any present, pension, office, or emolument of any kind, whatever, from any emperor, king, prince, or foreign power, such person shall cease to be a citizen of the United States and shall be incapable of holding any office or trust or profit under them, or either of them. So that's what this amendment would have put into place. The legend has it, and I think this has been alluded to already, that this was inspired by the fact that the Emperor Francis Napoleon, Bonaparte's brother, Jerome Bonaparte, had married an American woman named Betsy Patterson. She was often, was informally titled the Duchess of Baltimore. Her son, Jerome Napoleon Bonaparte, was born in Europe, eventually then returned to the United States, and actually his son, Betsy Bonaparte, and Jerome Bonaparte's grandson, actually served as the Attorney General of the United States, and presumably was a member of the Bar Association. So correctly, we did indeed ratify the amendment on December 9, 1812 here in New Hampshire. According to what I've seen, we were only the 12th state. At the time Congress passed the amendment, there were 17 states, which means 13 were needed to ratify. By the time New Hampshire got around and voted, Louisiana had been as 18 states, and that we needed 14 states. And some more states were added a year shortly after 1812. So 1812, there's the War of 1812 was going on. There's also actually Napoleon Bonaparte, who I just referred to, in Russia. So there was a time of World War. There was the United States was caught between Britain and France, although we were more opposed to Britain than France. And that's so in my opinion, the record shows South Carolina, one house of the legislature did approve it, the other didn't. Virginia, there's some confusion about it, because I think some of the official records were destroyed as they were in Washington, D.C. during the War of 1812. But it appears that Virginia, only one house, I believe it's the Assembly, the lower house, approved, and the Senate never did speak. There are some who have the theory that Virginia ratified it because they did print a law book. They're one of the many law books that erroneously had the 13th Amendment that wasn't written by the state of Virginia in 1819. That Virginia did eventually conclude that they never took up the issue again in the legislature. So Virginia's official position is that they haven't ratified it, from what I understand. And also by 1819, if that state in Virginia ratified it, there were more than 18 states. I think the magic number was up to 15 by then. So it has been said that it's the number of states need to ratify is the states that were there when the Congress passed it. The established practices with new states are added, and those new states are added. Those new states count towards the requirement that 3/4 of the state ratify it. In the past few decades, of course, why has this amendment become so popular in the past few decades? I think a theory has developed that this amendment would take away the citizenship of any lawyer who joined any state or federal bar association, including the New Hampshire Bar Association. So I think, from my understanding, members of the Hampshire Bar Association would hold knighthoods under the Queen, or King, as the case may be, but right now it's the Queen of England, and hence they hold office of nobility. But from what I've seen, even in Britain, what they call barristers, who are a member of the bar council, that's not considered a knighthood, it's not considered office of nobility, office of honors. It's just, actually, of course, actually Britain is, not to get too much into details there, in Britain they actually have two types of lawyers. They have barristers who actually are trial lawyers, and then solicitors who do transactions and paperwork and so forth. There's actually a law council in Britain, which most people in Britain who do what we call, I think it was lawyering, are actually solicitors and belong to another organization, the law council. Anyway, remember the bar council thing, when you're not a knight, you don't hold any office of nobility. Anyway, so the New Hampshire Bar Association, Representative Christensen actually mentioned that. It's an American institution. The New Hampshire Bar Association was created by an act of this general court back in the 18th century. The only The only thing that it shares with the Bar Council in Britain, well, actually England and Wales, the only thing it shares with that Bar Council is the word bar. So in my opinion, saying that they have a knighthood, that's kind of like saying the American-born players on the benches, monarchs have sacrificed American citizenship by accepting a title of nobility. It's just a semantic thing. And bar doesn't mean British accredited registry, British admiralty registry. I guess it refers to actually the bar, originally referred to the bar in between where the judge sat and where the rest of the people in the courtroom sat. Talking about the District of Columbia Organic Act of 1871, I actually took control of the digging up on the internet, and I guess you have enough paper. I'm wondering if I should have printed up copies for everyone. But anyway, it's not very exciting reading. It was basically a city charter for the District of Columbia that was drawn up in 1871. Because at the time, the District of Columbia consisted of Washington County, which was sort of part of Maryland and sort of part of the District of Columbia, and also the cities of Washington and Georgetown. And they combined them all into one city of Washington, somewhat just like it is today. And to really, that act didn't remove anything from the Constitution, nor did it or could it transform our republic into a corporation. The only language I find talks about corporations right at the beginning, where it says, this act creates an additional corporation which shall be called the District of Columbia. But that they were just referring to, the corporate entity, the city of Washington. So that was like, it didn't turn the United States into a corporation. It didn't take into the Constitution. So I think this, certainly an interesting bill. That's why I took the time to read it. I just respectfully asked that the committee ITL it. So if you have to take any questions, if you like.
Representative Horgan, if you were to modify the bill, would you modify it? Look at this relationship to the Bar Association.
Well, that would make it a little better. I mean, there's also, that's basically, in my opinion, totally erroneous. And I know not everybody, I know some people like me who will disagree vehemently with the human. I think, Roman numeral 5 is totally erroneous, so is number 4 pretty much, although, and then number 3, that's not what the District of Columbia Organic Act is. And number 2, I'm not really prepared to say one way or another. In the United States was under martial law in the Civil War, but that's I don't think that has much to do with the matter at hand. I think the whole thing. This doesn't belong. I don't think this is an appropriate thing to put in the law books. If you want to pass a resolution, affirming the fact that this legislature ratified it in 1812, that's fine. Not that we can, we ratified it. We can't undo that. Actually.
My question is, which state do you disagree with the bill's sponsors?
Oh, they seem to think Virginia ratified it, so that's, I'm not sure, that wouldn't have been enough anyway, so Virginia is the one that's most ambiguous because Washington, D.C. and Richmond, Virginia were both burned by the British in the War of 1812, so a lot of the original records have been destroyed, but there are some copies of them which survived elsewhere, so they have, part of the confusion with Virginia. The authorities in Virginia after the war ended in our time figuring out what had happened during those years. But it's the records indicate that the Virginia House did ratify this, but they needed also the Virginia Senate, which didn't. And in any case, if they wanted to pass this after 1819, they could have passed another ratification resolution, and they never did so. And might add, none of the other states have been admitted to the Union since 1812 have ratified this.
Thank you. Any other questions for Representative Horgan? Seeing none, thank you very much, Jim, for the efforts for this.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, I'd like to call upon Gus Benton.
I'm sorry. I didn't want to make everyone get up when I was already in the situation.
Mr. Chairman, the Secretary of State will be, he's out till 1 o'clock, and they're going to call me up there whether we're still going on or whether there's time to get him to come in and speak. But I told him we'll probably be over by then, but I bring it up to you.
Thank you. And Mr. President supports the bill, and you're representing yourself or any entity? Or?
I'm not representing anything, I just support the bill.
Okay, so you're just representing as a corporate citizen?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you all for giving me the time to speak. I've been researching this issue for a couple of years. at least a couple of years. I've purchased many of the books myself to secure the evidence in case it ever needed to be presented. I've gone to many state libraries and secured certified copies. The certified copies from Rhode Island of the amendment in their statutes. That's only a single copy. I have multiple copies from the state of Connecticut. So the evidence is abundant. The book that Stella talked about.
Would you mind passing the copies, you know, for each member?
I didn't bring copies for members. Actually, I didn't even bring any of these.
Okay, no, what I'll do is I want to make sure that the clerk gets it for our file. Okay?
You can keep that one.
I'll make copies for you.
Oh, all right.
Thank you, Representative Baldwin, for doing this. I appreciate it. Saves me time afterwards.
Yeah, take care of it now.
All right, thank you very much. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no problem.
Okay.
I'm not sure how much evidence you guys are looking for, but these are the military laws of the United States that were published in 1825, which contained the original 13th Amendment. It was published 1825, would have been 13 years after.
What's the title of the book? Military law?
I have it in.
It should be, I'm pretty sure, I emailed much of this to Representative Tremblay.
Okay. You've already, Representative Tremblay, you gave us that, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. I apologize. Sorry.
No problem. And the book that Representative Tremblay spoke about being in Keene and here at the Supreme Court Law Library, this is a copy of the original. This has been rebound, but this is the original 1815 book, printed by Beer and Duane, and edited by John Colvin. And it does have the 13th Amendment in it. So as far as the question of Virginia and whether or not Virginia ratified or did not ratify, when it happened, a lot of people say it happened in 1810. The buildings were burnt down, the records went down with them. And then in 1818 or 1819, I think it's 1819, Virginia printed their statutes books with the original 13th Amendment in it. So some people say it was ratified at some point after that. But in 1815, it was printed by the United States of America in, this is a 5-volume set, ranging from, it's all the laws of the United States from 1789 to 1815. So it's everything that had been done. And so it's in there. I have a pocket constitution that I've scanned. It's on my website, New Hampshire Redress. And this was, best I can tell from the other books that have the exact same cover, it was published in 1852. So that would have been 40 years after it was ratified. And then this is the 1835 Connecticut Statutes book, which Mr. Baldessaro is getting copies of now, a certified copy. I have many other books. There's friends of mine that have done the same research, come to the same conclusion. The evidence is abundant. So to really, I'm just here to clear up a little confusion. As far as the titles of nobility issue, it was presented in the Articles of Confederation, and then again in the Constitution. The problem is it's never had any teeth, and that's what the purpose of the 13th Amendment was to put a penalty associated with having a title. If you accepted or claimed, or if you did these things, you could lose your citizenship. And that was the purpose of the 13th Amendment. As far as pensions, I think you covered that quite well. As far as pensions back then, probably are doing the same things they do now. Bar Association, I have to agree with Mr. Horgan. As much as I don't like attorneys, I really don't think I've spoken at length with friends of mine. They're convinced. I don't see it. And for me, the whole thing comes down to one very important thing. What's left of that language is that if in the 13th Amendment, if you read it, and skip some of the language in there, so I'm going to skip some of the words, but it means exactly what I'm reading. if any citizen of the United States shall, without the consent of Congress, accept and retain any present pension, office, or emolument of any kind from any foreign power, then they chance to lose their citizenship. That foreign power today could easily be construed as foreign corporations. You have people that are stockholders on these foreign corporations from all around the world, and they decide to put money, even though the company is based here in the United States, they choose to finance campaigns. Those campaigns are being influenced by foreign powers. And I believe that that is the real crux of the thing right now, as far as what's left of the language in there. Titles of nobility I don't think is a big issue. That was the name of the bill when it was presented to the original U.S. Congress, and it had to do with reinforcing what was already in the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution. The Representative Tremblay, actually before I cover that, if you look at the, I don't know if you have the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States in front of you, and anything she's given you.
Yeah.
But I'll just read it for the record. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to the Constitution. The pertinent language next is, which shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states. Whereas Ohio was the last state in the Union, brought into the Union before this bill was proposed. Ohio was brought in 1803. That was the 17th state. 3/4 would have given you a number of 12.75, and the Congress of the United States saw the bill as being fully ratified by the states. And you have that document in front of you. I know so. Excuse me.
Number 5.
This long, if you will look at that page, that first page, 477, the first long page.
It's number 5, isn't it?
Number 5, yeah. At the bottom of that, you will see that the amendment proposed to the Constitution in relation to titles of nobility. And it's kind of brief, so I'll just go ahead and read it. Pursuant to the resolution of the House of Representatives of the 31st of December last, requesting information of the number of states which had ratified the 13th article of the amendments to the Constitution of the United States, I transmit to the House a detailed report from the Secretary of State, which contains all the information that has been received upon that subject. I won't bother reading the next paragraph, but if you flip to the top of the next page, it continues on. The Secretary of State, to whom was referred a resolution of the House of Representatives on the 31st of December last, requesting information of the number of states which have ratified the 13th article of the amendments to the Constitution of the United States, proposed at the second session of the 11th Congress, has the honor respectfully to report to the President that it appears by authentic documents on file in the office of the Department of State that the said article was ratified. And if you look through there, you won't see Virginia because Virginia didn't need to be there. They only needed 12, not 13. And further down at number 17, you'll see that Virginia had not yet even been heard from. So the 1815 statutes at large of the United States printed the amendment as fully ratified, and the Congress of the legislature of the United States saw that it was actually ratified. So as far as anything else is concerned, I believe it's just a lot of smoke, a lot of confusion. It was ratified, and the purpose of this bill is to acknowledge that it was actually ratified by, New Hampshire was the last state on December 9th. It says in here December 10th, but the record of the Secretary of State's office in the House Archives, the House Journal. shows December 9th, 1812, and that's actually the date that it was ratified by New Hampshire, and I've given certified copies of that to the Redress Committee last year, and I was testifying there. So with that, I'm all done. If you guys have questions.
Any questions of Mr. Reigne? Yes, Representative Perry and then Representative Reigne.
Why do you think of all the amendments that this one got overlooked?
It didn't get overlooked. It was printed from 1812 as late as 1876 by Wyoming. And so for the most part, it disappeared during the Civil War. And I don't know if there was something going on where they were trying to get rid of it, but it was printed. It's in, if you go to my website, New Hampshire Redress, and you click on a tab that says 13th Amendment, there's over 60 books that were published at that time that had the 13th Amendment in it as fully ratified. It wasn't any obscure thing whatsoever. It was very well known, and I don't really know what happened to it. All I know is that the U.S. Congress saw it as fully ratified. And you take the Prohibition Amendment, for instance, I believe that was number 18, and then it was reversed by the 22nd Amendment. So, you don't just get rid of the original 13th Amendment by making it disappear, you get rid of it by putting another amendment. And so, now, as far as, whether or not there was other states needed, it's very clear from the congressional record of the United States that you only needed 12 to ratify. They said so. And as far as they were concerned, it was fully ratified. Now, South Carolina at the time tabled the bill. They never voted on it. If South Carolina, if for instance it wasn't ratified today, South Carolina could take it off the table and ratify it, and it would become, another amendment. So it was only presented for ratification to the states that were part of the Union in 1810. It was not up for discussion for any of the other states.
I just wanted to make clear, because somebody brought it up in their testimony, that this is not an attempt to supplant what we consider the 13th Amendment now. There's no attempt to reverse that amendment. This is just to get clarification on what should have been an amendment to the Constitution.
Well, the 13th Amendment regarding slavery is considered by a lot of people to be the 14th Amendment. If you look at the original statutes books of Wyoming, Utah, a lot of the western states, they actually had this amendment as the 13th. What we now know as the 13th Amendment regarding slavery as the 14th Amendment, and then the 15th Amendment was also included. So a lot of the statutes, the older statutes books, have those amendments in that order. So it's certainly not this is a standalone issue. I don't think it affects anything else.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for taking the question. Are there any other states present in bringing this before their legislatures?
I don't think there's anyone bringing it before their legislatures, but there are movements across the country, mainly in Florida and New York that I'm aware of. Actually, quite a bit going on in California. But New York has a huge movement to do a similar thing. And Florida, there's I think, I can't recall. Bob Bertrand is a guy in Florida who's organizing with some other folks, and from what I heard from him, there's about 900 attorneys that support this in Florida. I don't know. They have constitutionalguardian.org, I think is their website. I talk to Bob all the time, but I haven't checked out his website.
It's my understanding they support the 13th Amendment, but not,
They support, they believe that this was fully ratified and it should have taken its, should have kept its place.
To the Bar Association, right?
No, they're just,
They just wanted to straighten out history.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Reigne? Yes.
Has this issue been brought up before in the New Hampshire legislature before?
I had no idea. No, I overheard a conversation about 2.5 years ago, and somebody mentioned the 13th Amendment, and I like to track down conspiracy theories to find out what little nugget of truth is in there. And I was amazed at how much stuff I found. And I wanted to have a physical copy, so I went on eBay and I started looking. And right now on eBay, there's at least 3 books that I know of. Original, 1823, 1841 statutes books from other states that have the 13th in it. But I'm not buying any more of those. There's plenty. You can get them for $35 up to $200-300. So you can spend quite a bit of money, but why bother? It's the Connecticut repository, the Connecticut State Library has many of those books, and I've got certified copies of Kansas, Missouri, Ohio, Iowa. I don't think I have them with me, but I got these at the Connecticut State Library. They have a huge repository. They have all the statutes books throughout history of Alaska, Alabama, Arkansas, all the way through. Every single state, all the books are there. And if you take the time to go through there, I spent 2 days there getting certified copies. So there's just a huge abundance of proof that it did exist, and not a whole lot of evidence of why it disappeared.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next, I will ask, thank you very much for your testimony. David Johnson, and you're representing something constitution? Am I asking you?
I'm representing the Constitution. That's why I'm here.
You're representing yourself then?
I'm here to argue for the Constitution.
Okay, that being said.
I really cannot represent myself. That's an impossibility. That's a legal thing.
All right.
I don't want to bog you down.
No, I understand. Not a problem. Okay. And you support the bill?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've never spoken before this committee, although I've been a frequent flyer here for years.
Well, welcome anyway.
But before I sit down, I want to stand before you and tell you today is a special day. Today we're not Democrats and Republicans, we're Americans. Okay?
Thank you for saying that.
Yes. This can actually be something that brings everything together. I don't have enough time to give you an education, but I'd like to ask you, Mr. Chairman, before you have an executive session, to allow me to send answers to the questions that have been going around here. I have the codes, the laws, the acts, all of the documentation, all the historical work on the questioning that's going on.
You're welcome to do that. We will not executive until next Thursday.
Thank you.
And, that's our last day to get everything out. So.
Right. 2 of the reps here that I know of do not have operating email addresses. One of them is Representative Priestley, and there's another one, I forget the name.
That was right on?
No.
Probably Rollins.
I'm sorry, I apologize. And faces I never forget, names.
You can get it before you leave.
I have to answer a few of the questions here, though. Much of what people at war, talk about partisan before I get into the rest of what I'm going to say. Much of the war that's going on between the Democrats and the Republicans because of something that's missing. And if the thing that's missing was here, you guys would never be arguing with each other because there's a thing called the public trust. And that's one of the reasons why the results of the missing 13th Amendment, in my view, and I say my view based upon that which I see is missing. Everyone has a trust attached to them, and it is invested and reinvested for your benefit. But it is, in fact, the British Accreditation Registry that's keeping it a secret from you. And it all happened since Roosevelt. That's what happened. We're in bankruptcy. It's called United States 4, basically, because the nations go into bankruptcy for 70-year periods. 3 of those bankruptcies have been discharged. So we are operating under bankruptcy, which is why it's kept a secret, which is what the Bar Association does, is it keeps it a secret. And I will forward this information to you, I promise all of you. Now, to touch on that, Representative Carey asked the question, why of all amendments, why is this one the one that's questioned? Well, it's because what you see as the Constitution really isn't the Constitution. It's a mirror image of it. Now, the Constitution has the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment is not missing. What's missing is the real Constitution, because it's a contract between the states, the nations, separate nation states, New Hampshire Republic, Massachusetts Republic. When you and I have a contract, and I go over in my bedroom and I change a paragraph, is it the contract? No. It's void, it's dead, it's gone. What did in fact happen after the war between the states, and it was never a civil war, it was a war of northern aggression. The southern states decided to secede, and regardless of what you read in your history books, the real reason for that was they were telling the North to go to hell, we're not going to absorb the debt. So we're going to go back to 1812. Hamilton started a central bank which was affiliated with the central banks of England, Bank of England. And back then you had a 20-year charter. They were creating instruments of debt like no tomorrow. And that started problems. And the 20-year charter ran out in 1811. So we actually lost the war of 1812. It was no draw. They got their banks back. It wasn't until Jackson came along that he killed it. Okay? So let's go back to finishing the answer to Representative Carey's question. What did happen was after the war and starting at the war, you had what we call the Lieber Code and martial law. Martial law, provably, is of course when the executive branch of the government is running everything. Lincoln started to write the first executive order. The president, the CEO of the bankrupt corporation called United States of America, on 10 square miles of the District of Columbia, continues to write executive orders. So what I'm telling you is we're still under martial rule and martial law. And proof of that is right behind you. There are a lot of questions going on about what does that flag really mean. You see the gold fringe in that flag? That's not a decoration. That's administrative rule flag. We're under martial rule. And to be under martial rule, you have to be a U.S. citizen. You need to read what a U.S. citizen is, and I'm going to forward that to you. You're basically an underling of a corporation. Now, I don't have all of the proof yet, but it is the British Virginia Company set up on 10 square miles of the District of Columbia called United States of America, and you see it in all capital letters. All of the states, I use the word state again, and I'm going to follow it with the nation states. All of the states after the war that wanted to return to a constitutional form of government were overthrown at gunpoint, including the northern states. Rhode Island was a slavery state. The war had nothing to do with slavery. Lincoln even said, keep your slaves, just don't secede. So, the Constitution, when it was formed and adopted back in the 1700s, was an agreement. It was a contract. You don't have a contract under gunpoint. So the 14th Amendment, to answer another question, the 14th Amendment effectively killed the 13th Amendment that you know as the end of slavery. The 14th Amendment, not only did it re-enslave the Negroes, to put it as they put it, it enslaved you too. Read it. You become a corporate underling under the United States of America Corporation. It is not a good thing to be a U.S. citizen. You'll see why. So, what they did was they created a corporate charter or a mission statement for this corporation, and they just left out that 13th Amendment because it takes them all apart. When we talk about the Bar Association, well, that's not the main thing of it, but let's talk about what it's a result of all of this. If you go to court, the judge is in the bar. Who runs the bar? The Supreme Court Chief Justice. The attorney is in the Bar Association. The prosecutor is in the same Bar Association. And any bar member will tell you that I'm under the judge. I'm under the bar. Are you represented? No. You can't be represented. Because what they did with the 14th Amendment and further on in history is they turned you into a dead corporate fiction called a legal fiction. You're a person. You're not people anymore. Because they're turning your existence over to a dead corpse. That's what the birth certificate is all about. That's a long explanation, I won't get into it, but I'm gonna send you copies of what I have on it, to your emails. So what they did was, what you see is the Constitution is not the Constitution. Like I said, if you alter it, it's not the contract. So if it doesn't have Article 13, as you see in Representative Tremblay's bill, that's not the Constitution. They have everyone thinking that it is. It's not. It's a Constitution for that corporation. Okay? By the way, to touch on this, and I will give you all of the information, all oaths of office in United States, in Congress, in District of Columbia, have been transferred to the United Nations. That's why that flag represents a foreign country. Just like when you walk into a court, you don't belong in these courts. Those are not Article 3 courts of law. Those are corporate courts. That's not a judge, he's a magistrate. He's an administrator for the bankruptcy. You walk in there and you give them consent. So the downstream effects of this missing Constitution is why everything is, I mean, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, don't you find yourself asking yourself, what's going on? I mean, how do these inexplicable things happen that are in violation of the Constitution? Because in Washington, they're all on the same team, by the way. Over here, in this state level, you have some ideological differences and philosophical differences. But in Washington, D.C., it's a big game. They're all in the same game. Because every president, Republican, Democrat, whatever, they're all reinstating all of the previous executive orders. You should read the executive orders. One of the most alarming ones is one that's just a few years old, is when they gave
I just want to make sure that Cynthia was okay. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, none of us are getting paid to be here, so I can sit here just like you guys do. What I'm saying is that there's a reason why it's missing. It's the whole Constitution that's missing. It's not just the 13th Amendment. So, as much as Representative Tremblay understands, and I think she has an idea of that, she just may not explain that to you. It's the whole Constitution that's missing. Like I said, you change one thing in and it's gone. So, what we have is a major fiasco. We have the presidents who are writing executive orders. That is living proof of executive rule under martial law. That's it. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. Ohio, by the way, which, not that it really matters a real lot, but they were only recently, within not that many years, actually accepted into the Union. Because the way they didn't actually enter properly, so they didn't have a dog in the race back then either. Because I was writing these crazy notes, that's why Virginia is irrelevant. Please forgive me. Now, when I say the 14th Amendment killed the 13th Amendment for the end of slavery, what I'm going to reiterate, read it carefully, word for word, because when you write laws, laws don't have the same meaning that you use. Person is not you. You don't want to be a person. That means you're a corporate fiction. So when you guys are writing bills about anything, and you're passing bills, it's not about people, it's about person. And if you don't know who you are, you will most certainly be treated like you don't know who you are. And the judges know this, because they're all trained in the bankruptcy. They treat you as a person if you walk into that commercial court. All laws and all crimes are commercial now. That's a fact. We're under bankruptcy. So everything is operating in a very different way than you think. I'm going to send you a copy of the Lieber Code, and I'm going to send you a copy of a book called The Civil War with No Ending.
You mean a reference to the book itself, or?
Well, the Lieber Code is all through the book called The Civil War with No Ending, and the author of the book comments on the specific portions of these Lieber Code articles.
When was the book written?
I don't have the date, I'm sorry. It's not that old, because the woman who wrote it is approximately my age, so.
Oh, okay, so it's recent then.
Right.
Okay.
only seconds here. I heard a question about trusts and pensions. All money that was extorted from you is yours, and you're entitled to all of that, period. You don't lose anything by losing your U.S. citizenship. And the statutes at large, by the way, when they forced the 14th Amendment down everyone's throat at gunpoint, you were given the opportunity to repatriate to be an American national and state citizen. Listen to what I'm telling you. If you repatriate to be an American national and a state citizen, what are you expatriating from? A foreign corporation. These are facts, folks. Believe me, I did not come here to give you a bunch of hot air. I can back up everything that I'm telling you, and I'm gonna in the email. So basically, the 13th Amendment that you see is actually the 14th Amendment. This would be an amendment, because technically, we could argue about whether that's really a Congress. It's a corporation. All oaths, like I said, have been transferred to the United Nations. The whole court system has taken control. Just the bill itself, this bill itself, has been a wrestling match. Did you know that? Yeah, and now I'm going to quote other representatives throughout the years have constantly been wrestling with the Office of Legislative Services, with its own separate Dun & Bradstreet number. Is a bunch of bar attorneys. They write everything, change the word, the comma, the term, everything. They change it to benefit the legal community. The fighting and the back and forth bickering that's been going on because of the specific terms that they keep changing in this bill to hide and cover up what was in it. For instance, here's how you're all being run. There's a constitutional office called the county attorney. It's like the county sheriff. Who the hell is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court to demand that he override the Constitution to force the county attorney to be a member of the Bar Association? I'm going to tell you what he does. By doing that, what does the county attorney do? He presides over and with the people, the fourth branch of the government, which is what jury nullification is all about. Because you're the ultimate judge as the people. That means that the people are now under the control of the Bar Association. Like I said, when an attorney tells me I can't say that or do this, I'm under the judge. Did you know that when you walk into court and you hire an attorney and you are represented, that you are an incompetent? You may not think so, but the judge knows it. You become a ward of the court. Because the attorney is an officer of the court. The prosecutor is an officer of the court. Those courts do not belong to you. Those are corporate courts. And the stuff that goes on with there, I'll send it to you in writing. Please read it, because it's all important to you. Because what we're doing, and what's happening, by the way, and another question that came up with other states that are doing this, across this country, a lot of things are happening, and people like Mr. Breton and I and others are watching what's going on, because we're not in front of the boob tube. We're on the internet and we're talking to each other all over the country and all over the world. We're seeing what's actually happening. If what was happening was ever on network television, your hair would curl. There's a lot of stuff happening. People are leaving United States citizenship by the thousands. People are seceding. States are telling the administration, whether it's Bush or Obama, they're trying not to make this corporate, they're telling them to drop dead. You have the president writing executive orders that don't apply to people, and he's trying to force it down people's throats. And it goes for all of the presidents. It's not just the one that we have now. So what I'm telling you is you're going to, we don't really have a choice. It was the 13th Amendment, Article 13, was in fact ratified. It was, and it's in the Constitution, and that's what they're, when you investigate something, you look for evidence. If I find your neighbor's blood all over your hands, and we have a videotape of you being there, and you had the knife in your hand, all that, it's relatively safe to say. I mean, your only argument would be someone stabbed them and handed me the knife. It's all through the publications. The publications were unlawfully stopped. And it all happened after the war between the states. The bankers are running this country.
Well, can I interrupt? I mean,
Yes.
we can go on and on and on here, but I mean, I have, when we're going through lunch, you're gonna send out some information, so I mean,
I get the hint.
no, I mean, there, it's not that it's not interesting, but I mean, you know, I could see, and I can come up with all kinds of scenarios as well, so I was wondering if you wouldn't mind at least wrapping it up so we can proceed.
Well, I'm here not only to support the bill, I'm here to support the Constitution, and I'm trying to tell everyone, please don't make this a partisan issue. Because all of the stuff that the Democrats are, and the Democrats are in the majority right now, the stuff that you guys fight for, I have, my family's divided, it's half Republican, half Democrat. The stuff that you guys are looking for is covered in the public trust. It's already there. You can't get it because you don't have access to it, because you don't know what the law is. Please do this in unity. This is for the Constitution, for all of us. We're trying to bring the Constitution back. We're trying to do it all across the country. Article 13 is, it's law. It is there. You know, because this is an ongoing process, and everything that we do here today is going to be published. Everything is going to be, I'm putting 2 books together right now. You certainly don't want to be someone who voted against the Constitution. We've given you abundant, copious amounts of proof that it's there. Don't be the one who says, no, I don't want this thing. Because that's like saying, well, when someone says, like Representative Horgan said, well, this is back in the 18th century, 17th century. Well, so was the Fifth Amendment. So was the First Amendment. So is your right to vote for who you want. These are 250-year-old documents. They didn't get outdated. Things didn't change. Times haven't changed. Article 13 is Article 13, and it's in the Constitution. I'm just saying, please, do the right thing. You know, do the right thing and support this. And things will only get better, believe me. Things can only improve by passing this.
I was with that, you know, things are getting worse, but
They are.
any questions for Mr. Johnson? Yes, Representative Mason.
Thank you for taking the question. So if the whole Constitution is missing, is what you said, then will the ratification of Article 13 make it whole?
No, I mean, no one in good conscience would ever say that we need to get away. It will make it mostly whole, and it will not supersede or replace the 13th Amendment that you see now as the end of slavery. I'm going to give you a quick answer also. It's going to help, because the 13th Amendment to free the slaves, and then the 14th Amendment that re-enslaved everybody, that will be fixed. That will be corrected. We'll start immediately going back to a constitutional form of government. President Johnson, Andrew Johnson, said this is going to re-enslave everybody, not just the Negroes. This is going to enslave everybody. He said it. It's his public record, and they threw him out. They got rid of him. Executive Order 11110. President Kennedy wrote a bill. I mean, an executive order that bypassed the Federal Reserve, which is a foreign corporation. That's part of the United States government. Reed Lewis versus United States. They killed him. He created the silver certificates. He borrowed gold from Indonesia to make real money out of silver and gold, to make real money and do it through the treasury. And they killed him.
So then will you need 2/3 of the states to ratify it?
To ratify this?
Yes.
It's already ratified. Done. Done deal. That's the whole thing. This is all done. Basically, we're giving you a package on a silver platter with a bow. It's all done. You don't have to. That's why this isn't about a CACR. This isn't a constitutional amendment. It's done. It's all through the United States publications. It's all through the states. Look at Connecticut voted against it. Rhode Island voted against it. They posted it. Wyoming, as Mr. Britton mentioned, 1876. They were a territory. They didn't even have a dog in the race. They posted it. I mean, are all of these states crazy? Did they all get it wrong? The only question, the little black cloud that floats around is the thing of Virginia. Well, Virginia doesn't matter. It was just chasing the wrong fox.
Okay. Any other questions, or?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can't ask a question?
No.
Your name's on the-
You're a co-sponsor. Okay. All right, any other questions for Mr. Johnson? No, we look for, whose email addresses you don't have? You know how to get to our website with who's my rep and?
Oh, yeah, I'm there more than you guys are. I'm usually in 3 other committees. I'm talking for 3 other committees usually.
Okay.
There's criminal justice, judiciary committee.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Johnson?
But before, I want to mention one thing, and then I have to leave in one second. Last majority, or last session, I would say, I shouldn't just say majority. The chairman, now you have now all you have to do is, I'm against the Bar Association for a lot of reasons that we don't have time to get. But the former House Speaker was a member of the bar. We could say, well, do we want to get rid of this, you know, whoever is a representative, Democrat, Republican, do we want to get rid of them because they're members? No, just get rid of the bar. It's against the Taft-Hartley Act and it's against the Smith Act. Whenever a judge tells you have to hire a bar attorney, he's denying you your 6th Amendment rights. And one of the Chief Justices of the Supreme Court is guilty of that. You have the right, read the Constitution, it says you have the right to assistance of counsel. It doesn't say anything about a bar attorney, okay?
Yeah.
And just quick question, because the bar keeps coming up, and
Yes.
there was if the portion of the Bar Association was stripped out of this bill, would you still support the bill?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, as I was trying to say, the former Speaker was a member of the bar. The House Judiciary Committee Chairman, member of the bar. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman, member of the bar. Folks, that's why the laws and the statutes and the codes are coming out the way they're coming out. The Bar Association is all through this body, and that's what we don't want. You can't have one private corporation. A private corporation is basically has their hands on the helm. And one of them is right downstairs across the street at the Office of Legislative Services.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, seeing no more pink cards or I'll close the hearing on Bill 638. Lars, I'm doing
If
this
I
in your...
take this stand,
Wait a minute.
I'm a
I'm doing this...
co-sponsor, I want to speak on the bill.
Oh, you want to address this?
I'll address the committee.
All right, okay, let me
I'll
reopen
see
it.
if I can get an answer to this question.
No, that's fine. What I was going to do, Lars, is close this
That's
and then
right.
have you ask
That's
your
right.
question,
Thank you,
but
sir.
we can do it this way. Okay? So I'll reopen, the hearing on House Bill 638, to have one of the...
We'll see if we can get an answer. If we enforced the charter for the New Hampshire Bar Association, would that sort of straighten out the mess we're in? And anybody I'd like an answer from, you really just wrong.
I'll be honest with you, Representative Cruz, I don't know what the charter says.
I'll get you copies of it tomorrow,
Yeah.
okay? I'll bring it to everybody.
Yeah. And
The charter of the New Hampshire Bar Association, before it was a private corporation.
Okay. And out of respect, I mean, the reason I closed the hearing was to give you the opportunity to ask a question, but we can do it this way, that's fine, and I wasn't meant to slight you at all, okay?
Well, I was looking for his answer.
Okay, all right.
I'll go out in the hall and get it.
Go for it. Okay, Mr. Johnson, be prepared. Thank you. Now, I will again close the hearing on House Bill 638, and then you want a 5-minute break just for you to go. The next one will go really, really quickly because you've got a lot of good supporters. It's a bipartisan bill. It's one that the,
Financial National Lab,
yes.
I vote, bust it right out.
Okay. All right, okay, I'll open the hearing on House Bill 518, an act relative to the establishing an individual status as a veteran and specifying that training for active duty is privileged for purpose residential tax credit. With that, I'll ask the prime sponsor. What do you got? I'm sorry, what?
Did you guys stop for lunch yet?
No, we
I have almonds.
No, I didn't think that this would have jumped the fog. I apologize to the members, because I know it's a quick one, but this one is quick and dirty. No, quick and dirty. That's dirty.
All right, I'm just finishing making a file in about a minute. Close down and we'll.
Usually my folder always has this, the new one.
They didn't have anything.
No, they had my old stuff from like.
Right, and they didn't have anything in it. I brought this home.
And I had a couple extra copies I had like punched, put in my
I
mind.
never know all these things. Mary, are you going to testify, or are you just here to observe?
I passed a card.
Oh, you did? I have Al.
So the card should have just come up.
Is that Mary or Al? Oh, I'm sorry. Are you in favor of the bill?
Yes. Then I have to, I don't know if I checked
Somebody go get
that.
Al, because I'm hungry, and then I'll get irritable.
There's 15 minutes to be out here, we just drag them in here and get it done. Oh, okay, I thought you said stretch for 5 minutes.
Representative Tremblay, you want to pull in Al, tell him that, he's got some people are gonna be having him pay for lunch and they didn't get in here.
That's a very expert right there.
You know, about 4 or 5 years ago, a fellow didn't get re-elected. They gave him a job up in the majority office.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay, committee members,
Next thing you know, I get a parking ticket.
let me open the hearing on House Bill 518.
The car was my wife's car. My neighbors, I always put the most important for my wife's. 85 tickets.
85 tickets? 35 tickets.
And I walked over across the street.
Yep.
He says, I'm sick of this bullshit.
Yep.
To send it to the court. You didn't mean that, I sent it to the court.
Yep.
Came in the court. They called my name every time.
Representative
5
Todd
minutes past
Smith,
11.
Yep.
sitting in, and
And
I'd like to introduce
I
House
was
Bill
waiting in the back of the court
518,
next to a lady.
Yep.
and
State trooper.
relative
Yep.
to establishing an
I invite
individual's
you to
status
take a
as
seat
a
at
veteran
the-
and
at,
specifying the training for active duty
Speak
and
with
service
the
for
seat
purposes
with the
of
speaker.
veterans
They're
tax
not
credit.
speak loud and clear from me.
As you can see, I'm
Just
not
sit
a
and go on, you know,
sponsor of the
go in
bill,
bar.
so if you have
I
questions,
didn't
I'd rather you
walk
defer it to
Yep.
the experts that have written this bill.
He couldn't? Wasn't in his jurisdiction.
I'm not a
That's
veteran.
right.
Cool.
I didn't enter it.
Everybody,
I didn't pay his food.
So why did they give you the tickets? Because you rode on time?
No, they were, the
I
fire
know you are,
beat
I know.
Yep.
okay,
Thank you, we
was,
have,
was,
there will be no questions,
knocked him out of the
The next
legislature.
person we have is, Mary Warren.
Thanks.
Mary, would you
Yep.
like to hold
But it
it?
was, I just stuck my thumb into
Yep.
it.
Yep. All right. All right.
Take your time.
Okay.
What's that? Oh, the